Hi, Kari, Heidi, and Maggie. Thank you so much for joining me this week for our symposium conversation related to Kari's new composition for the Stay at Home Symposium called Let Me Count the Signs for soprano, recorded flute, and electronics. It's such a pleasure to feature you three and speak to you today. And I guess I wanted to get this conversation started with Heidi first and just asking you a little bit about why you were inspired to submit your poem let me count the signs of life amidst the planet's dying.
Hi, yeah, thank you for having us. And just for this amazing opportunity. I think it's been such a brutal year for most of us, I think, some more than others. But I think amidst the isolation that most of us have been contending with through this pandemic, and collaborations like this feel really vital and life giving. Um, It's also an experiment. I think we're coming from very different backgrounds and skill sets, and just to see what's possible in these sort of unexpected convergences, I think is one way to explore what's possible when things are hard, when things are, um, when we're just trying to make it through.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I really loved your poem, the two poems that you submitted actually. And I
Thank
wanted
you.
to mention that this is only the second time that we've had a composer work directly with poetry, and the first time it's a living poet. So I'm really, really excited about this. And so, Kari, what drew you to Heidi's poem in particular?
I come from a vocal background and have always loved working with text. And something that Heidi does so well is build sort of this emotional landscape within this text with so many points of like imagery and different sort of expressive content that builds its own narrative arc, which is something that as a composer I'm really invested in terms of creating an affecting piece. So just working with this text, I mean, it gave me so much. And it made my job really easy because, as a composer, I want to further the text, I want to sort of build a sonic world that speaks to what's already there. So this project was just really, really awesome and really exciting and in a way super straightforward, just working with this poem that gave me so much. Yeah, and I mean, the imagery is so strong. I was really having fun with thinking about how electronics and voice really, they're very malleable, and the colors that you can have in electronic sounds are, all over the map. So, yeah, it was a really, really fruitful sort of process for me. I felt really, really grateful to actually be engaging with something too that was topical, because music is expressive first and foremost for me at least, and it was just a real comfort to be able to engage with something that felt in step with my day to day, and this sort of emotional climate we're all in. Yeah.
That's really beautiful. Thank you. And so, what were the kinds of conversations, Kari, you were having with Maggie about putting this new commission together and the world premiere performance and layering it with the recorded flute and electronics? If both of you could speak a little bit about what that was like.
Um, yeah, I mean, I have had the, fortunate experience of knowing Kari for a long time. And when she reached out to me, to ask about collaborating on this, I was really excited to do something. Um, I, the recording process was interesting. And the layering of the track, and it was my first time recording with headphones in. The video I did was actually a cappella, but I could hear it in my ear, and that was a really interesting experience. And working with the electronics and the fixed track, um, a lot of really new things for me to play around with as a singer. And it's something that I think there are somewhat fewer instances in the vocal repertoire where you have things like fixed track and electronics. And so as a lover of contemporary music and new things, I thought that that was a really fun thing to try out. And, you know, we corresponded over email about, you know, the creation of the drama of the text and the narrative. And it was, I was glad that I recorded it now, because a lot of the imagery in Heidi's poem was very personally relevant to me. And so, luckily, some of the things that it speaks about are things that have passed now, but it was really, I loved being able to work on something, like Kari said, that was topical and that had personal relevance, and I think also a lot of relevance overall to people right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I'm really grateful for Maggie's ability to sort of portray, you know, expressive layers in texts. And that's something that I've always appreciated about her as a musician. Also, just having a killer ear, which is super important in contemporary music. And, you know, when working with electronics, which is something that a lot of singers don't do and is fair, you know, that's not everyone's ball game. So, you know, I appreciate the flexibility. But yeah, I think all in all too, it's just in collaborating, I always feel like, you know, if you're working with people who sort of get the nature of your work, I'm always interested in art song too, and sort of form and relationship to sort of delivering narrative through song. And Maggie knows that, and she sang like some solo soprano pieces I wrote a while ago, and yeah, just some piano and soprano pieces. So I'm grateful, you know, to have such consistent and talented collaborators, frankly. Yeah.
Well, I think the power of your collaboration comes through, and I just really, really loved your performance of it, Maggie. It's just so passionate and powerful. And I'm curious, Heidi, did you get a chance to listen to Maggie's performance?
I did. I got to listen to the recording. Kari sent it over the other night. And I'm curious to ask both you, Kari and Maggie, just like you use the word art song, and I had my sort of immediate response to listening to the piece was that I could see it sort of in an installation where people are actually entering into an experience of the piece, because there's something so, I think, unsettling about the juxtapositions of emotion through music and through the sounds of the birds. So that just really struck me and I thought was powerful. And I would love to hear both of you speak about that some.
Yeah, just to start off, I guess it's funny you say that too, because I actually, my first thought reading your text was, wow, this is like totally hitting me like a libretto sort of situation where I mean, I love chamber opera. That's sort of like a passion of mine, just in terms of, you know, aspiring towards larger forms in my work. But your text, it just, the first thing I thought when starting to work with it was, there's like these different sort of emotional climates in it. And the first one felt sort of like silent dread in a way. And I was thinking, if I could put this in like a chamber opera setting, there would be like a clock ticking on a wall and someone singing, because there's just this sort of like silence and stillness and very quiet dread present in some moments. And then, you know, there's these beautiful sort of outward, like sort of more dreamy, melancholy, like beautiful visions in it. And so I was thinking, this doesn't strike me as much as an aria, because arias are so proclamatory, you know, or declamatory. They're always like declaring selfhood in a way. And then for art song, this struck me as a song because it's so much more intimate. It's more of an internal sort of experience. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just, when I say art song, it's interesting because I know that has such a connotation. But I felt like because of, I really, in the sonic world, I was trying to depict the sort of alienation and the sort of like stark contrast between this sort of like beautiful natural world, and then also this sort of isolation, this dread, the climate dread, the pandemic dread, these sorts of totally disparate imagery that you put together so beautifully in juxtaposition. So that speaks a little to, yeah, these crazy different sound worlds collaged onto one another, including, you know, a more traditional use of the voice next to like synth sounds and these sort of more alien sound worlds. Yeah, Maggie, so, sorry, I'm
No.
rambling a little.
Well, and I think, you know, I was struck listening to the final product at how this was much bigger than just my singing and my performance of the, um, you know, the soprano part. And that's something, how you were talking about like an installation, and I definitely get that vibe from the music. And I think, you know, art song, we think of person in crook of piano in recital hall, and I in some ways the virtual format of the symposium and the way that we were able to create this piece, I think lends almost better to in service of the poetry and in service of the music, because I don't know if it's totally suited to the crook of piano world, um, which is no shade to that, because I love that world. You know, I live that world quite a lot. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's I thought, you know, it's really interesting as a singer where a lot of times you're used to being the focus of all the attention of the piece, and that you know, have this responsibility of being the conduit of the full emotional weight. Which is not to say that, you know, I don't need as a performer to still be communicating at my best, but I always love being a part of a whole, and a part, whether it's through ensemble work, chamber work, but it's really gratifying to watch the final thing and see, you know, the full vision of it come through. So.
I like how that also, for me, it speaks to the ways that I see our place in nature as this ensemble of life, or this assemblage of life, and the voice and the human being one part of it, woven through with the rest. So I like that.
Well, thank you all so much for contributing your thoughts and artistry to this week's collaboration. And the symposium is all about, like what you said, Maggie, just about creating new possibilities in this time and new potentials for collaboration. So I think this is just so beautifully woven in with what we're trying to do. And I'm so grateful to each of you for being so honest and so vulnerable in this process. Is there anything else you'd like to share that we haven't touched on yet?
I am just grateful for the opportunity to collaborate and, you know, to connect with people over life. It's very life-giving, as Heidi said, especially in this moment. You know, I felt this project was really, really restorative in a way. So I appreciated that a lot. And thank you to you all for being a part of this with me.
Thank you all very much, and I appreciate the ability to connect over physical and temporal space, and, you know, do this collaboration, which may not have been possible otherwise. So that's very, very cool in my mind.
Thank you all so much. And I
Thank
really hope
you.
this leads to more collaborations among the three of you in the future, maybe in real life or in physical life. But thank you all so much.
Thank you, Audrey.
Yeah, thank you.